Call the General Committee meeting to order. Ms. Foche, will you lead us in a prayer?
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to gather together this evening. We're happy to have our National Academic Games team with us, and we also pray for our seniors who will be graduating next Thursday. We are grateful to their parents for entrusting them to us for their education, and we pray that each student is able to pursue his or her best possible dream into the future. Bless each graduate, and we pray that each of them understands that they will be a part of us forever. These things we pray in your name. Amen.
Mr. Campbell, will you lead us in a pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Ms. Foche, roll call, please.
Mrs. Acevedo?
Here.
Mr. Campbell?
Here.
Dr. Kraft? Mr. Egan?
Here.
Mr. Gaines?
Here.
Mrs. Dysart?
Here.
Mr. England?
Here.
Mrs. Lemoyne?
Here.
Mr. Long? Mr. Smith? And Mr. Warner.
Thank you, Ms. Foche. Okay, move on to item number 4, presentation of the 2018 Academic Games National Team members. And this afternoon, we got Ms. Mary Lametta here. Glad to have you.
Yes, good evening. And I have the pleasure tonight of presenting the National Academic Games team members and their coaches, along with their awards, to you tonight from the national tournament. And as you all know, they competed in Knoxville, Tennessee in April, and over 2,000 students competed in these 3 intense days of competition. And the team members earned various awards, including a National Runner-Up Team Award in President. So we actually have national runners-up, and those are the silver thinkers you have over there. And in many events, there are up to 200 and over 200 students in each event. So the top 10 students in the events each will get a medal, and they do recognize the top 20 because most events had up to 200 students. So, of course, you know, once again, they represented themselves, their parents, and the district extremely well. Not only are they phenomenal competitors, they're even better people and even better teammates. And really for this, I'd like to applaud their parents at this time. I would also like to mention at this time that these players had local coaches who coached them throughout the year at their schools as they competed in these 4 tournaments and worked hard throughout the year practicing and coaching with them to help them excel to this level as well. And in addition, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our partner, Chalmette Refining PBF Energy, and through their generous donation of $15,000, it really helped defray the cost of the tournament for the players, so the players and coaches could focus on studying and help them earn some of these awards as well. So without further ado, it's now time to introduce the coaches and the team members. Okay. So we'll start with the Middle Division team, and we'll start with Miss Gina Azevedo.
Right. Gina, just come around. Thank you, Gina.
Congrats.
You'll notice the Middle Division team members are wearing medals. They've earned these medals by finishing 2nd place in equations in their table division. And we'll start with Kobe Barrow.
Congratulations. Great job, Kobe.
Brandon Jackson. Makayla Maghirang. Ava Volante. and earning 11th place individual award in onsets, and going into playoffs and finishing 3rd in the nation individual award in equations, Anthony Wee.
That was fantastic.
And as I mentioned, with over 200 students in each division, they did award thinkers for 4th place and 5th place teams. Elementary division earned 4th place in onsets as a team and 5th place in presidents as a team. And they also had an onsets individual with a perfect score in the math game. So we have the coach, who also was the onsets competition coordinator. She was the National Equations competition judge, tournament committee member, and a GLOA board member, Melinda Hall.
You did a great job. Thank you so much.
And now we have the 4th place team onsets and the 5th place team President's Award winners, Nahar Abdelhik, Elmi Gonzalez, Andrew Wee, Tania White, and with a perfect score in onsets individual award, Selena Lee. Now, the high school team had 5th place in Propaganda Team Award, as I mentioned earlier, national runner-up in President's Team Award, and 4 students in the top 10 for which they earned medals. We had a 10th place individual in Propaganda, 10th place individual in, another 10th place individual in Propaganda, a 9th place individual in Presidents, and an 8th place individual in Presidents as well. And for that, I'd recognize the coaches, Jillian Chrisman, oh, sorry. And Isabel Gonzalez. And now we have the players. Grace Bartholomew. Eric Ganji.
So proud of you.
Ethan Gilchrist. Luke Radzewski. And with a 10th place individual award in propaganda, Nicholas Mag. Austin Billiot. Erin Laria. Leanne DeCula. And Leanne earned a 10th place individual award in Presidents, and that's the medal she's wearing. And with a 9th place individual award in Presidents, Emily Vu. And wearing her medal for 8th place individual award in Presidents, Kelsey Billiot. And Ryan Gregoire. Oh, yeah.
There you go.
My last hug from Kelsey. It's going to make me tear up, I know. And Ryan Gregoire couldn't make it with us this evening, but he was the National Onsets Competition Coordinator, and he was the National Equations Competition Appeals Judge, both for the Middle Division, and he represented us well as well with the students.
He's an appellate court judge already.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, I think your name's Mary Lametta.
Thank you. Thank you.
As administrator. Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Mary, just stand up there for a few minutes, please. I'd like to take this opportunity just to thank all the team players. You know, y'all represented our parish so well. You know, we all proud of you. You know, for our school district, and for the coaches. You know, what can I say? You just make these kids shine. You know, and that goes a long way. And for the parents, the backing of the parents, that's where it starts at, from the parents, from the home. So we would thank y'all. Mr. Gaines, do you have anything to say?
I just want to add that I've been at academic games competition nationals for how many years, Mary? A number of years, and I can tell you, I can attest to the fact that it is very intense.
20.
And these kids do shine there, and I'm very, very proud of them. Thank you very much this year.
Great. Ms. Dysart.
Just another congratulations to the team and all of the coaches. We appreciate all of your hard work. And, you know, people can talk about Louisiana education, but here y'all are going to
Right.
the Nationals, and y'all showed them. Y'all did awesome. Congratulations. We are so proud of y'all.
Good
Keep
job.
up the great work.
Anyone else? Ms. Foche.
Yeah, and just let me also lend my congratulations. I'd like the seniors just to come up so we can recognize you one last time. Our seniors in high school. I hear the Billiards. Okay. The two seniors. You know, I just want to give them just a special recognition. We have watched these two young people, as well as many others, just grow up in academic games.
Right.
Remembering y'all coming, what year did you start? What grade level? Third grade?
Third grade.
Third grade.
Third.
So they've been doing this since the third grade and have represented us so well. I know Austin has been my ambassador at national games. He tells me all the time he takes my place in there, so I feel very confident that he does extremely well. Kelsey, of course, is also Miss Chalmette this year
Right.
as well, has done an incredible job. We are so proud of you, as well as all of the other members of our team that
Right.
we know will grow up through their senior year to represent us exceedingly well. Miss Lametta, how many years have you been doing this, Miss Lametta?
Well, I was trying to think when Mr. Gaines asked me. I think 20.
20.
I think it's
years.
been. I was young too when I started.
Very young.
You're
I
still
used to
young.
look like this when I started.
Mary, you're still young.
Been worked up through, you know, as a coordinator for us and a supervisor, and now as the assistant superintendent, has kept her hands in this as well as many of our coaches. But I think I take the prize here. I started in academic games playing as actually a high school student in it, and I attended. What year did Agloa just celebrate? In how many years?
Third, 53rd.
53 years. Well, I hate to tell you guys this, but I played in the first national competition. So if you want to start doing the numbers to see how long ago that was. But I played in high school and in the first national competition, which was held in Florida. So I participated as a student. I was a coach when I was a teacher at Chalmette High School. So this competition is very near and dear to my heart, and I've seen it grow so much over the years here in St. Bernard Parish, and how well you represent us. And it's all about, you know, I'm all about the games, the math, the propaganda, the presidents, but I'm much more about the kind of character that we build and the team spirit and the competition and how you represent us so well at National. So it's more about character and competition and leadership as well as the academics. So you're great representatives of our school system and our community, and we thank you for all that you do. We thank our coaches profusely and
Great.
parents. I know we've said this several times tonight, but we thank you too, because if you hadn't raised such wonderful
right.
young people, they wouldn't be standing here tonight
That's
being
right.
recognized.
That's right.
So thank all of you.
And I'd just like to close with, they spoil us every year by bringing home all these thinkers. Over 2,000 students compete, and they only give a handful of places, so hundreds and over 1,000 students go home with nothing, and every year they bring a cart full of awards home, so that we are quite spoiled.
Right.
Don't jinx it.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, good evening.
And thank you, parents.
Ms. Hall, excuse
Yes.
me, Mr. England.
yeah.
How many years have you been with the program? Quite a few.
23.
23, okay. Great job.
Okay.
Thank y'all.
Thank y'all. Okay, we'll move on to item number 5, Super News.
Evening, folks. So
Good
that
evening.
was a lot of super
Alex.
news to follow up on. So we will see them once again in this month's super news. But the communications report is in your folder. On the front page, you'll see a couple of highlights of some of the press releases that made it to print. I'm sure many of you saw the banquet and are celebrating our school community. Was kind enough to make the front page of both the Post and the News. We also had some other great events, or great articles this week that made it out into the paper. Tommy Hall, as many of you know, will be attending West Point Academy this fall. He has also single-handedly earned more than $1 million of scholarships. And so he was featured this month as well. Facebook has been a great platform for sharing the great news happening within our school district. This week, as many of you know, is Teacher Appreciation Week. We kicked off Teacher Appreciation Week yesterday with a short video of our students applauding our teachers and saying how wonderful they are. We will have 4 videos, one for each day this week, that I've created to kind of get a glimpse at why our teachers are so great from the eyes of our students. So we're really looking forward to that. And tonight's video will go on as soon as I leave here. As we look forward to the month of May, as many of you know, May is quite a busy time for our school people. Tomorrow is Parish Government's Day at the Capitol. 3 of our students, including Miss Kelsey Belliot, serving as Miss Chalmette, Mr. Chalmette, Nick Campo, and Tommy Hall will be joining me at that event, representing Chalmette High and letting legislatures and other community partners know why Chalmette High School is such a wonderful place, so they'll be up there with me. The Jazz Quartet will be up there as well tomorrow to kind of set the tone, so we're really looking forward to that event. This Friday is Chalmette High School's Honor Banquet. This is where the top 5 graduates are announced. It's quite a beautiful evening. As Ms. Voce mentioned earlier, Chalmette High School graduation is next Thursday, and that should be, as always, a really spectacular evening. Our elementary and middle schools will be also having their end-of-year ceremonies. You all can find, and the public can find information about those individual events on each of the school's websites and on our district website, and they will take place usually the day or 2 right before the end of the year. So we're looking forward to that. So without further ado, I would like to cue Jack in the back, and I hope you enjoyed this month's Super News.
And now from the desk of the superintendent's office, it's time for Super News.
Hi, I'm Alex Schneider.
And I'm Barry Lamorne, and welcome to Super News, where each month we share some of the good things going on in our school system.
We are broadcasting from the MoMA Center in Old Airby, and later in the program we'll share some exciting news of things that will be taking place here this summer. But first, we'll begin with a look at 7 heroes in our school system. Recently, these students were recognized for overcoming adversity and living meaningful, productive lives at the New Orleans 26th Annual Cox Inspirational Heroes Awards and Recognition Ceremony, held at the Pontchartrain Center in Kenner. These youngsters exemplify resilience and perseverance, and we salute their accomplishments.
Another celebration all took place in the 9th grade gym at the Chalmette High School as the district hosted its annual Celebrating Our School Community. For the 18th year, we honored those individuals who make the school system one of the best in the state. Over 400 people gathered for this evening of food and fun with their school families. The award ceremony celebrated the students, teachers, parents, support staff, and volunteers of the year. And we also said goodbye to some of our most beloved colleagues as they begin the next chapter of their lives, retirement. As the night concluded, Superintendent Voce also used her time on stage to announce next year's school theme.
For as we all know, it is a strong public school system that makes a strong community.
Special thanks to the Chalmette High School Band and Choir for the entertainment, the high school ambassadors who provided the hospitality, and the tech students for providing the lights and sound for the event. It truly was an evening to celebrate.
And now we'll go from local news to national news as we take a look at some of the action taking place at this year's Academic Games National Tournament. Students throughout our school district recently competed in the 53rd Annual National Academic Games League of America Tournament in Knoxville, Tennessee. Over the 4-day tournament, students competed in a series of games, testing their mathematics, language arts, and social studies skills. After it was all over, our students once again did well, as the elementary team walked away with a 4th place overall team thinker for onsets. Selena Lee received a medal for her performance in the onsets tournament. The middle school division also fared well, winning a medal in equations led by Anthony Wee's perfect score heading into the playoffs. Anthony finished 3rd in the nation for middle division equations. The elementary team received 5th place team thinkers and presidents, and the senior division collected silver thinkers for their outstanding performance in the president's competition. Melinda Hall and Ryan Gregoire served as National Academic Games Onsets coordinators for the division, and Ryan served as the National Academic Games Equation Appeal Panel. Congratulations to all of our coaches and players for representing our district so well.
And now it's time for Teacher Feature, as presented by the members of our school board.
From Andrew Jackson Middle School, we would like to recognize Meg Lancaster. Miss Lancaster is the band and music teacher and goes above and beyond for her students. Described by many students as their favorite teacher, Miss Lancaster builds relationships with students both in her classroom and outside of it. Thank you, Miss Lancaster, for all you do for the students of our parish.
Our next teacher feature for this month is Carly Brandt. Carly is an outstanding preschool teacher from Goche Elementary. She has taught pre-K4 for 4 years and also volunteers her time to help as a cheer coach. Her drive and devotion is an inspiration to all. Thank you, Ms. Brandt, for teaching our students with love and compassion.
Graduation day is here. It has been an awesome year.
As graduation approaches, seniors prepare for life after high school, and many of them will attend college thanks to the number of scholarships that were awarded. The class of 2018 is a strong one, as indicated by the millions of dollars in scholarship money offered this year. At the recent award ceremony, over 30 scholarships were awarded to some of Chalmette High's brightest owls. In an ongoing partnership with our school system, the Miro Foundation continues its support through its scholarship program. These awards will support 60 graduating seniors as they embark on the next phase of their educational journey into higher education. 50 academic scholarships were awarded for 4-year university studies, as well as 6 technical and 4 art scholarships. The school system and our students are grateful for the ongoing generosity and support of public education.
An ongoing tradition at Chalmette High School is the naming of Mr. and Ms. Chalmette during annual titles. This award recognizes those students who exemplified the values, commitment, and personality that epitomizes what it means to be an owl. This year's dynamic duo excelled both in the classroom and in the dozens of extracurricular activities that they took part in. We are proud to announce this year's winners, Nick Campo and Kelsey Billiot. Congratulations to these two outstanding members of the class of 2018, and thank you for keeping the tradition alive.
And now we'll go from big awards to big generosity as we take a look at this year's Relay for Life that took place at Val Reese. Over 100 school board employees participated in this year's event, raising more than $11,000 for cancer research. This participation is just another example of how our school system partners with our community, because as we all know, strong schools make a stronger community.
As the school year comes to an end, families are beginning to seek summer plans. The school district will be opening our doors at both the Chalmette High School swimming pool and here at the Momus Center. The summer swim program will consist of 2 10-day sessions. Students will learn swimming techniques and the basics of water safety during these 1-hour sessions. The first session will begin Tuesday, May 29th, followed by the second session on June 12th. Parents can find more information about this program in their students folder and online at the website below. In other exciting news, the Momus Center will host its first ever STEM Science Camp. This program is designed for students interested in physical, earth, life, space, and environmental science. Our future scientists will immerse themselves in hands-on activities designed to stimulate creative thinking and deepen scientific understanding. Daily planetarium shows will also be a part of this dynamic summer camp offering. And unlike the cosmos, space in this program is limited. More information can be found on our website below.
Well, that would just about do it for this edition of Super News. But before we go, let's take a look at some of the action taking place at the Cultural Arts Center. You know, Alex, flowers aren't the only thing popping up this spring, as the performing arts are in full bloom. Students from across the school district have taken to the stage for a variety of performances, including plays, concerts, and award ceremonies. From the music of Shrek, The Jungle Book, and High School Musical to honoring our award-winning writers, the CAC is truly a hub for the performing arts.
These performances are a small sample of our school district's continued support of the arts, and we'll show you even more of the good things taking place in our schools next month on Super News,
where we always let the Super News roll. And we'll see you next time.
Well, Alex, a great job, as always.
Appreciate it.
Any questions from Ms. Snyder? No? Thank you, Ms. Snyder. Okay, we'll move on to item number 6, is presentation of completion school board training certificates for 2017. In your folder, you have a training certificate that you did, that y'all completed back in 2017. This is a requirement that's done by that's required by the state, that you maintain, that you must maintain 6 hours of extra school, hours of training, and this is that's mandated by the state. So so this shows that you have for 2017. I know most of y'all have done the 2018 already. So but this is your certificate for 2017. Thank you. Okay, move on to item number 7. This is educational. Ms. Lemoyne.
Thank you, Mr. England. Agenda item number 7 is the annual review of the Guide to Student Conduct. And we have with us tonight Mr. Powell. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you. Good evening. The annual guide to the discipline committee meeting was held April 23rd, and the committee is recommending 2 considerations for your pleasure. On page 16 and page 19, Class 2 infractions. This is, on page 16 is grade K through 5, and on page 19 is a grade 6 through 12. And the bullet for both of those on page 16 as well as 19 is unauthorized use of electronic telecommunication devices such as cell phone, pages, and beepers. The committee is recommending that we place wearing of a smart watch into that devices. So therefore, the recommendation would state unauthorized use of electronic telecommunication devices such as cell phone, pages, beepers, and wearing of the smartwatch. And the reason why is because some of the elementary schools have had problems with that smartwatch, and it has caused a problem. And it does fall under the telecommunication devices. So that is one of the recommendations that the committee is making. The other recommendation that the committee is making is that the committee is recommending for a long-term study on the dress code guidelines. And the reason being is that there have been so many changes in the dress code as well as changes in discipline. So the committee is recommending a long-term study in relationship to the dress code guidelines. Those are your two recommendations that the committee is putting forth for your consideration.
Okay. Questions for Mr. Powell? Mr. Gaines?
Okay, I'm wearing one, so I totally understand because this smartwatch is amazing. It just takes everything off of a cell phone and it puts it on the screen here. So I can imagine test items
Yes.
coming up on the cell phone. So it's easy enough. But how would you enforce that? That's what I'm wondering.
Well, we're going to use the same criteria that we use for the telephone. Okay. And hopefully that the students don't use those for devices such as tests and things like that. We can't just stop the kids from not wearing that, but we're going to try to use the same approach that we use for the telephone.
And one other thing, I was approached by one of my constituents concerning cyberbullying, and I was looking for the student guide of conduct here, and I was, one of the disciplinary actions is to let's see here, expulsion and the possibility of suspension of a student's driver's license for 1 year. It's in the state law.
Yes.
And it's in later on in the in here.
Yes.
But I would like to see it more delineated here under disciplinary actions on page 41. It says it's in the student guide, and we will follow the conduct of disciplinary actions with the student guide of conduct. But the suspension of a student's driver's license is pretty heavy.
Yes.
I know I was 18. I remember, those driver's licenses were very, very important. So, maybe additional something in there
In relationship to?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your consideration.
Anyone else with a question or comment? Mr. Long?
Let's see, Mr. Powell, just for clarification, the cell phones and the watches, in other words, they can bring them to school, but they are not allowed to use them, correct?
Correct.
You have to keep them in their,
Yes.
in their backpack?
Backpack, yes.
Or whatever, okay. And can you explain to me a little bit about what you mean by long-term study on this dress code?
Yes, the committee is asking maybe we form a committee to look into the feasibility of either pros and cons in relationship to the dress code guide.
So they want to look at it over a
Period of
long
time.
period of time to see,
Well, yes, they want to look at it. They want to study it and come up with the best results for our school system.
how long are they looking at? I mean, talking about a couple of years? Or?
Well,
No. Well, we will look at, we've had many questions, many concerns on both sides of the spectrum. in terms of how current our dress code for students is and what it is in terms of community and social mores and such. And we haven't made any significant changes in a very long time. So we have gotten requests not only from parents but from teachers and everybody to take a really good look at that. When Mr. Powell has this committee to meet every year, everybody's got an idea of what we should change and why we should possibly change it. So what we're thinking is we need to take a step back and get a committee that's representative of the community, and over the course of this coming year, talk about it, study it, and come back with some recommendations next year. So that's really the purpose of this. We continually, you get a phone call from a parent who will say, well, I think this is ridiculous that y'all have this in your dress code. Then we could get a call from a second parent saying, well, we're not tough enough with it. So you've got all of this tug and pull. You have teachers, administrators with different types of, different opinions on what it should be and what we should allow in today's society versus what we did 25 years ago. So we thought that instead of doing any kind of a knee-jerk reaction and bringing anything to the board at this time, that we would take a step back and get a representative committee together to look at this and then come back with some very thoughtful recommendations at next year at this time.
And I'm glad to see that, because I know the last couple of years we made some changes with allowing things in the hair and which I didn't agree with, but we approved it. But yeah, I think it's time to look at everything very thoroughly and see which should be in there and which shouldn't. But thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Warner, question?
Yeah, I was also going to ask to elaborate on the long-term study, and I mean, what's on the table? We talking about uniforms? I mean, we're all in uniforms, right? So taking that off or putting
the uniform piece in terms of clothing, I think, is pretty well established. It's something that I think we all can live with, the parents, the students, the administrators. We've got to look at hair length, facial hair, the types of things that are coming, what?
Piercings.
Well, the types of things that are coming up, and we need to have a little input from everybody. And we may come back and recommend that nothing changes. So we may come back and recommend that this piece of it, a part of it, changes. But we have gotten many inquiries and thoughts and opinions from all sides. So I think it's time that we took a good look at it.
Thank you.
And we're talking about on page 10 in your guide to student, your guide, and we're talking about the dress code guidelines. So that'll give you some information on what the committee may be looking at.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Ms. Dysart?
Thank you, Mr. Paul. You've been at this many years, huh? The
Yes,
dress
ma'am.
code. And I know our administrators and teachers, daily they try to uphold the dress code
Yes.
and, the discipline in our schools and all. And they do a great job. But and thank you for all of your work and also all the work of the committee
Well, thank
to review it. But I do have one clarification on the recommendation to add wearing a smartwatch. What infraction would that be?
That's going to be in the when we say unauthorized use of electronic communication devices. We're going to have cell phone, beepers, and we're going to add that in there, wearing a smartwatch.
So it'll be the same
Yes.
infraction?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And then on the cyberbullying, what infraction is that? Cyberbullying.
It could be
it could be a
class
suspect-
3. Right.
Okay,
It is
could
very
be
serious
up to
because
a class 3.
Yes.
Right.
The other thing is that, just for your
Depending
information,
on the
we've
severity,
had,
correct?
Yes.
In the administrators or the principal's decision.
Right.
Okay.
Just for your information, we've had the sheriff's department to talk about those kinds of things. So we constantly give information to our students in relationship to cyberbullying and things like that. So we have workshops as well as for our teachers as well as our kids to make sure that they're current in relationship to crime as well as penalty in relationship to cyberbullying.
I know that in the beginning of the year, the parents received the student, the conduct, guide to student conduct, but I think it might be a good reminder for our students, maybe throughout the year, to remind them, because cyberbullying has become a problem with our youth, and it's something that none of us ever had to deal with, but I'd like to see us possibly remind students as the year goes on that, this could be serious.
Yes.
Just because you put something on, the internet or an email or text or whatever, that could be a very serious infraction.
It is serious.
Yeah, so, I would just like to see us remind students of this.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Dr. Kraft?
Yeah, Ms. Lamont, based on this, I would move that we send this on with these changes recommended to the full board.
We have a motion by Dr. Kraft and a second by Mrs. Acevedo. I think, did you have another question or comment?
Just one, maybe a clarification. I heard you mentioning training. Do we have professional development we give our teachers about cyberbullying?
Yes, we have workshops in our school system, okay? In relationship,
Is every teacher required to take?
yes, in relationship to our counselors give workshops. It could be through the PTC meeting, it could be through faculty meeting, but the law requires that they do have this training.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gaines. We have a motion by Dr. Kraft, seconded by Ms. Acevedo. Does anyone else have any other further questions or comments? Okay, if not, please cast your vote.
Motion passes 11-0.
Thank you so much for your time and effort, and to everyone that was on the committee, all the principals, teachers, and staff. Thank you. The next item is an executive item for Mr. Long.
Thank you, Ms. Lamont. Item 8, personnel changes for May of 2018, which also includes the appointment of principals for Davies, Lacoste, and Andrew Jackson. We have Mr. Granberry with us.
Well, I'll let you look at the personnel changes, and then
Okay.
Ms. Voce will take over from there.
And this is for information only. No action needs to be taken. Mr. Granberry, I think you completed the transfer day, is that correct?
Yeah, Saturday's job fair.
So,
This Saturday at Chalmette Elementary, we'll be there from maybe 7 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock Saturday night,
and so you stay busy year-round, basically.
Absolutely.
Any
Just for
questions?
your information, if you look at temporary assignments for 17, 18, those people were hired temporarily and do not have a position yet for next year, but most of them are going to be at job fair Saturday with the opportunity to get a position for next year. So.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Okay. We'll move on to Ms. Voce.
Thank you. Okay, I have the privilege tonight to make 3 appointments at the Celebrating Our School Community Banquet this past couple of weeks. We saw that we are having some of our principals retiring. Dr. Syndergaard, Andrew Jackson, Ms. Schultz at Davies, and subsequent to the banquet, Ms. Alfonso at Lacoste Elementary. So we're looking at some major changes for this current year. We advertised for the principals of those 3 schools. I put in your folder the applicants and the appointments, so I'd like to just go over the appointments to those 3 schools. For Davies, and I got a little typo in there. Davies Elementary School, I'm very happy to appoint as the principal for this coming year, Ms. Tiffany Glapion. Okay. Ms. Glapion has been with us over 22 years. She started as a kindergarten teacher at many of our schools, so it was great help during the storm at the Unified. And she has been acting as the assistant principal of Davies Elementary since 2009. So she has done an outstanding job in that capacity. So it's just natural movement for her to become the principal at Davies Elementary School. At Lacoste Elementary, again, we've had some good applicants there, but we are appointing Miss Heather Morrell as the principal. She started out with us as a teacher at Chalmette Elementary School, was then an instructional coach at Gautier Elementary School, and in 2015 was appointed as the assistant principal at Lacoste. Again, a very natural movement from the assistant principal position to becoming the principal of Lacoste Elementary School. And thirdly, Andrew Jackson Middle School. I'm very pleased to appoint Miss Andrea Licciardi as the principal at Andrew Jackson Middle. She started out her career as a math teacher at Chalmette High School for over 10 years before being appointed as the assistant principal at Andrew Jackson in the year 2010. Again, another natural movement from the assistant principalship of AJ to the principalship. So want to congratulate these three outstanding educators. I know they're going to be doing an incredible job next year taking over those principalships, and we will very soon be advertising within our 3 new assistant principals. So Mr. Granberry's job, as we start moving people around, will create then probably additional vacancies in our teaching ranks, so it never ends. But I just want to congratulate Ms. Glapion, Ms. Morrell, and Ms. Licciardi, and I know they will do an outstanding job in their positions, in their new positions.
Thank you, Ms. Locha. Any questions or comments, Ms. Locha? Ms. Dysart?
Thank you, Mr. Long. I just wanted to take this opportunity to also thank Ms. Alfonso, Ms. Schultz, and Dr. Senegar for their many years of service to St. Paul Parish school system. And the shoes will be hard to fill, but I feel very confident that Ms. Morrell, Ms. Glapion, and Ms. Licciardi will do a great job. So congratulations to each and every one of them. Thank you. And Mr. Granberry, thank you for your fine job always. As Ms. Locha said, never a dull moment. It's just a domino effect. Keeps going.
Rolling along.
Thank you, Mr. Granberry.
Thank you, Ms. Dysart. Anyone else? Okay. We'll move on to the next item, which Mr. Granberry has also, is item number 9, personnel appointments for 2018, 2019.
Okay.
That's a list of everybody right now that's going to be employed by us for the 2018-19 school year.
Okay.
And 2 weeks when we come back, that will change quite a bit because job fair is Saturday, you know. So. But those are the people that are hired for the for next year at this time.
Okay. All right. Any questions, comments? Ms. Dysart?
How many people are you expecting at the job fair, Mr. Granberry?
Oh, about 70 and 80.
So you have a good selection?
We have like 20 of them from within our system that are looking to transfer to another position, and we got about 55 that are coming from the outside to interview. Like those were student teachers this year, people in other school districts that are looking to come to us, people from out of state that are moving to the New Orleans area and looking for jobs. So
okay, great, thank you.
it's going to be about 75, 80 people.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Dysart. Anyone else? Okay, moving on. We'll go to, excuse me, item 10, the 2018-2019 personnel evaluation plan. And this one we're gonna need board action on.
Right. Well, at this time, we have no changes or additions to the plan for next year. And as it says on the notice you have, if any future changes are made by the State Department of Education, we'll make the necessary changes that are needed at that time.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we need a motion. Okay, motion by Mr. Warner, second by Ms. Lemoyne. Any discussion? Okay, please vote your machine.
Motion passes 11-0.
Moving on. Item 11, permission to mail letters of assurance. And
So moved.
this is something we do every year.
Every year for anyone who worked for us as a substitute throughout the school year.
Okay. I'm
So
sorry,
moved.
motion by Dr. Kraft, seconded by Mr. Campbell. Any discussion? Okay, please vote your machines.
Motion passes 11-0.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Granberry. Good job.
Thank you.
All right.
Looking good.
The other day.
Item 12 is an insurance item. Mr. Egan.
Okay, Mr.
All right. Item number 12 is request for permission to renew flood insurance. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. Okay. In your package, you have the renewal rates for flood insurance through the National Flood Insurance Program, and we have our friends, Mr. Richard Clements and Mr. Timothy Clements here to answer any questions you might have. You have a list of all the properties and the premiums related to all of those properties. I think we came out pretty good this year. We were expecting an increase, but we really ended up, due to some reclassifications and some readjustments of the properties, to have a slight decrease in premiums. So we're recommending that we renew the premiums on the properties presented for a total premium of $184,748.
Anyone have any questions? Mr. England.
Thank you, Mr. Egan. Is this due to the fact that with the new maps that came out, that we have a reduction in the flood rates, or what?
We
I know for the
actually didn't
homeowner.
get much change overall from, we have two properties that are still, we're looking at that had changes, Merrow and, one of the other coach, I think it was the one of the Goches.
Goches.
In the back, yeah.
Okay.
So we're waiting on some information there that might make it even into our advantage. The policies that we had pretty much stayed flat. Those preferred
Okay.
policies stayed the same, so that was good.
Okay.
We'd heard there was gonna be an 8% increase on it, but, didn't happen.
Well, you was telling me about that 8%.
So, we got lucky.
Yeah. And
Thank
I
you,
think
Mr.
the
Fleming.
slight decrease is due to the removal of one of the properties at Sebastian Roy's school.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Oh, shoot, sorry.
Okay.
No, I was just, sorry, Bill.
That's all right.
At any rate, I was looking, it looks like Chalmette Vista had a little increase. The Chalmette Vista area, Raleigh, and, what's the other one?
Raleigh is a location that we've had some losses there in the past, so they're in a repetitive loss situation, so they can't be in the preferred group, they have to be in the regular group.
In the regular
And
group.
the
So-
regular group is inching up.
Yeah, and that's Andrew Jackson Middle as well. I saw there was, well, it was a decrease in the gym, but increase in the main building in ROTC. So is this the same situation, or?
Yeah, just different elevations on those that weren't all at +3, let's say. You know, one might be a 1, one a 2, one a 3, and the 3 makes the better rate than
I got you.
on
Okay.
the elevations.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Mr. Warner?
I'll make a motion that we accept the flood insurance bids that we have.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion from Mr. Warner
Gotta buy flood insurance.
and a second by Mrs. Dysart. Any further questions or statements? Please vote your machines.
Motion passes 11-0.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is adopt the 2018 ad valorem villages. Mrs. Dysart.
Thank you, Mr. Egan. Mr. Fernandez, the 2018 ad valorem millages.
Yes, ma'am. These are millages. We're required to levy the millage, to officially levy the millages every year on the Avalon properties. So this is the resolution which will adopt the millages. We adopt them every year in May to present to the assessor in June as required. We are levying the same number of mills as we have previous year. So there's no increase in anything, and we're adopting the exact same number of mills as we adopted last year.
So no increase, same millage
Yes, ma'am.
for education. Okay, any questions?
I move that we accept the millage as stated.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Gaines, seconded by Dr. Kraft. Any discussion? There being none, cast your votes, please.
Motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. Next item is a 2018-19 general fund and special revenue funds budgets. Again, Mr. Fernandez.
Okay, in your package, you have the projected 2018-2019 budgets. We have several exhibits, actually 6. The first 4 relate to the general fund. Exhibit 1 is a summary, which summarizes revenues and expenditures and other transfers and sources and for next fiscal year. Number 2 is a detail of revenues for the general fund. Number 3 is projected expenditures for the general fund. And number 4 is a summary of employee benefits, which we usually present for the new budget. And as you can see, the budget reflects our expected staffing. We went through the administration, the school principals, Mr. Grammer and Ms. Voce. Ms. Lametta went through the staffing process and estimated staffing for all of the schools next year. So this budget reflects those staffing numbers. It also reflects a slight increase in benefits for a slight increase in the retirement rate, and other items. The revenues, basically, there are 2 items of interest. One is we're projecting a slight increase in tax revenues from sales taxes. We're noticing that sales taxes are coming in very well, so we upped the estimate slightly for next year. And the other one you might notice is a decrease in MFP revenues. We're having a $600,000 decrease in our minimum foundation revenues next year. And basically that is due to a increase in our wealth factor. It's a rather complex formula that doesn't just run based on student enrollment. There's also a relative wealth factor, and due to a spike in tax revenues we had in the previous year, it made us relatively wealthier than the other districts. And the formula also calculates a local contribution. It splits the total expenses, the total MFP expenses among a state contribution and a local contribution. And since we became presumably wealthier, our local contribution increased by that amount. So that's why you will see a decrease in that. But anyway, that is reflected in the budget, and we feel that this fairly represents what we expect our revenues and expenditures for next fiscal year to look like. We, of course, will, once we get more accurate figures as the year goes along, come through and revise the budget periodically through the year. Exhibit number 5 is the lunch fund, which reflects what we expect the operations of lunch fund to be next year between our revenues and expenditures related to that fund alone. And exhibit number 6 is the budgets for our special revenue funds, which are basically our special revenue funds reflect mostly our federal grants that we receive, as well as the avails of the ad valorem maintenance tax that was passed by the voters previously. And these are estimated amounts for the grants because we have not got our final grant applications for this year, so this is an estimate for what we expect our grant allocations to be. When we come back in the fall with our first budget revision, we'll refine those numbers with the actual amounts as we get the final allocation numbers. But I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Dr. Kraft?
Yes, Mr. Fernandez, on
Yes, sir.
number 4 there, I see the group insurance went down 106,000. Is there any particular reason why? Is it costing less? or
It's group insurance is a moving target. What happened was we didn't really realize any increases in premiums.
Okay.
And we don't expect an increase in premiums. And group insurance changes through the year as people change their coverage. They add and take off dependents, family members. So those premiums will be adjusted throughout the year. So basically, we are estimating the future, next year's premiums based on our current premiums for the last few months, which have gone up and down throughout the course of the year. So that's what we're projecting, and we're pretty confident with that projection.
Thank you.
Mr. Gaines?
I was noticing the revenue streams, like you mentioned earlier, that we're contributing, the local funds are contributing more than the state funds. I mean, if you look at it, the state is taking away 600,000, and we're contributing 649,000. So I mean, that means we're taking more responsibility for our education here in St. Bernard. But what bothers me a little bit is, and I don't know, maybe it's the, again, you talk about that complex formula. This is more directed to Ms. Voce than MFP. We have a decrease of almost $500,000. Right?
Over $500,000.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I thought the MFP was static, frozen.
No. Well, the MFP overall for the state is frozen in terms of the amount per pupil that you're going to get. What happens is you go through a calculation of the MFP. There's a base per pupil amount. There are weighted values on top of that for specialized groups of students. So you go through all of the calculations of what they consider the minimum cost should be to educate a child in the state of Louisiana, and in particular in each individual school district. Okay, then on the side of that, they do something that is called a wealth calculation, a local wealth calculation. That's what Mr. Fernandez was talking about. Way back when, I guess in the 80s and really in the 80s, there were 1980s. There were massive lawsuits throughout the country on inequitable funding formulas that were used state by state in education. And the theory was, if you gave every child the same per pupil, then you were being unfair to local municipalities that could not raise the same amount of revenue locally to supplement it. So many of those funding formulas were declared unconstitutional. So in the very early 90s, most states had to redo a concept of what their funding formula would be. I had the fortunate or unfortunate, I guess, experience of being named in those early 90s, because I did Mr. Fernandez's job at that point in my career, and I was named to be on the committee in Louisiana to develop this, quote, new MFP formula. At that point, we had a consultant who came in, and there has to be, and this is pretty well a national trend, this local wealth determination. The state picks up, when you calculate for all the school districts in Louisiana, the state's going to pick up 65% of the cost. The local municipalities pick up 35% of the cost on the average. But it doesn't go parish or school system by school system in that ratio. If you are a poorer district, the state may pick up 75 to 80% of the cost, and you might only pick up locally 20 to 25%. If you are a wealthier school district, then maybe it's 50-50. The state puts up 50, you put up 50. So every school district is going to be different depending upon what they consider the local wealth. The local wealth is determined by what you can generate on a per pupil basis with your local tax base if on the average everybody, and I'm oversimplifying this now, say on the average you assess the same millage, because a mill in St. Bernard Parish would generate maybe $390,000. A mill in another parish would generate $150,000. Another parish might generate $600,000. But the local effort would be that one mill. So it generated more or less in every parish. Same thing with sales tax revenue, that you could assess 2% local sales tax. Well, maybe your 2% would generate a certain amount, but 2% in another parish on a per pupil basis generates much more or much less depending upon that economy. So they would do a calculation of the ability of the locals to raise money if they said all things were equal. Like, for example, if you did the same millage and say the same sales tax rates, how much could you really get per pupil? So if your local monies fluctuate, then these percentages for you are going to fluctuate, and if they fluctuate in other districts, you're affected by it, because if another district becomes wealthier, you become relatively poorer. And that's why it's so complicated, because you don't know what's happening in all of the other school districts in the state in any given year. What happened to us this year, Mr. Fernandez and I, took a look at it and we pointed out, remember a couple of years ago, and this all lags behind a year or two on local revenue. Remember when we got that big old $2 million sales tax audit? You remember that was it $2 million for us?
Yes, about.
The sheriff they audited somebody, we got this big windfall. Well, guess what? We were real rich that year in this formula because we got this big old spike. So we got the big spike in local revenue, which made us relatively wealthier on a statewide basis, and that's why you see this reduction. Okay? Now hopefully next year we're going to see it level off again. So that's why when we say this is a very complex formula, this is a very complex formula, and no one can sit there and figure it out till you get all the data in from all 64 parishes and 69 school districts in the state with what they're generating locally and what the state. Now, the per pupil stays the same, and that final number is computed equally across the board based on the formula, but then how much of it the state pays and how much local pays changes depending upon this wealth factor. So I hope that was adequate explanation, but that's kind of the concept. So when Mr. Fernandez sits down to try to figure out what we're going to get, it ain't an easy task, believe me, as we sit down and we look at these figures. But that is the concept behind this.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it, Mr. Gaines? Okay. Next, I have Mr. England.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Dysart. It gets to me every year when I look at the fund sources, the finances, transfers to other educational agencies. This tears me apart because this is $188,000. We got a fantastic school system down in St. Bernard Parish, and this is monies that's leaving our parish, that's money that's dedicated for this parish, and it's going out of our parish. And I'm firmly against it, and I just hate to see that number there. Before, I think it was more than that last year, wasn't it, Mr. Fernandez?
Yes,
It was 200.
last year it was 100, this current year it's 193,000.
193?
They estimate 188.
And this is an estimate.
That's an estimate. Right.
That's their initial estimate in their simulation, and that number changes as the year based on the enrollment at those particular schools. They may get more students or less students.
Right. What this is referring to are the Type 2 charter schools. Right. Those are charter schools. Type 2s are the ones that are set up with a statewide focus. And there are several of them in New Orleans. We have none here in St. Bernard, but they are in New Orleans. So they can draw on a statewide basis. And when any child who lives in St. Bernard Parish goes to that particular charter school, not only do they get the state portion of the MFP money, we then have to take local taxpayer money raised in St. Bernard and send it out of parish to those charter schools that are located in other parishes.
Well, Ms. Focher, that's some things they got to do up in Baton Rouge. They got to correct this. Thank you.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Okay, next, Mr. Long.
Okay, thank you. Well, first, excuse me, thank you for getting the budget to us prior to the meeting. Give us a chance to go over it. I do have a question about on page 4 of the expenditures. Salaries for the guidance counselors and speech therapists. Quite a large number there. 817,000 and 492,000.
Yes.
Do we have guidance counselors? How many do we have in our system? Do you know?
We have a guidance counselor at each elementary and middle school, and we have several at the high school.
Okay. Okay.
Right. So we have made a commitment here in this parish that, unlike many schools throughout the state who do not provide counselors at elementary schools, you know, a long time ago, this board made a commitment to provide guidance counselors in every elementary school and every middle school. And then you need the multiple counselors at the high school to meet those ratios. So, yes, it is a significant expense, but it's...
Same thing with the speech therapists, too, huh?
Speech therapists go by caseload. So any student who, through an IEP in special education, is determined to be in need of speech therapy services, we are mandated to provide them, and there are caseloads for the speech therapists that they cannot exceed. So we have to hire the number for the number of students who receive speech therapy services.
They still float from school to school?
Yes, sir.
Or
Yes,
they're
they
not
do.
assigned to a particular
No.
school? Okay.
No. They go among the different schools.
I know a couple of years back we were having trouble finding speech therapists. Is that correct?
Well, we've been lucky in the recent past that we have been able to fully staff.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Kraft?
If there's nothing else on the floor, I'd send it to the committee with a recommendation.
There's a motion by Dr. Kraft. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Smith. And I just want a quick comment on the school counselors. They do a wonderful job. We are so blessed in St. Bernard Parish to have our counselors at every elementary school and then at the middle and high school. In this day and age, our students need them, I think, and they do an awesome job. So I hope that we can continue to have guidance counselors to fit within our budget and a balanced budget. Mr. Fernandez, thank you very much. Okay. All right. Anyone else? Mr. Gaines, did you have something else? Okay. Anyone else? There's a motion on the floor and a second. Please cast your votes.
Motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. All righty, next item on the agenda is a request to approve the bid tabulation for milk and milk products for July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019.
Okay, in your package, you have the tabulations for milk and milk products for next school year, and we are recommending a low bid on each item.
Okay. There's a motion by Mr. England to accept the low bids on each item. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Campbell. Any discussion? There being none, please cast your votes.
Motion passes 11-0.
Thank you, Ms. Fote. Next item is a request to approve the bid tabulation for bread and bread products for July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019.
Okay, again,
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Fernandez.
I'm sorry. This is the tabulation for unbread products. Ms. Bloom asked me to bring to your attention on one item, BR 109 pistolets. There was one vendor that bid an item that did not meet specifications, so that item was disqualified. But we're recommending the low qualified bidder for each item.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Gaines, seconded by Ms. Lemoyne. Any discussion? There being none, please cast. Oh, you do have. Go ahead,
Just a
Mr.
point of
Gaines.
privilege. I was seeing Leinheimer here. My father worked for Leinheimer for like, he retired as part of a French bread maker for years. And as a kid growing up, I could wake up and there's 3 loaves of Leinheimer French bread on the table for us. So when I saw the name again, that memory just popped in. So anyway, thank you.
You are a lucky man. Okay, are there any other questions or comments? Okay, please cast your votes.
Motion passes 11-0.
Next item, superintendent's recommendation.
Just a reminder that we have advertised the budget in the newspaper as mandated by law, the proposed budget, and that first item on the agenda at the regular meeting will be a public hearing on the proposed 2018-19 general fund and special revenue funds budget. So anyone in the public can come in and comment on the budget at the public hearing. I think Ms. Schneider, with the Super News all the time, really says what I was going to say in terms of reminding people of upcoming events. But just to reiterate that this Friday night, the Honors Banquet at Chalmette High School at 6:30 will be a very nice event. Next Thursday night, the 17th, is Chalmette High's graduation. The little exit ceremonies for kindergarten, 5th grade, and 8th graders will be on May 23rd. People need to check with the school sites and the websites for exact times on those. And as Mr. Granberry mentioned, this Saturday, May 12th, will be our job fair for prospective teachers for next year, and we're going to be very involved, as he said, from 7 in the morning till later in the evening. So it's a good thing, though, that we're getting interest of people to teach within our school system who are certified or who are eligible for practitioner status. So we're in a very busy time of the year.
And they do go around fast, don't they?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Okay. We'll move on to item number 18, adjournment.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Question?
Yeah.
Well, a
Sure.
comment, I
Sorry.
guess.
Yeah.
I want to remind the board concerning the graduation, the St. Claude Bridge is going to be closing for 10
Yes.
days, starting
Yes.
this Thursday. So you might have to leave yourself a little extra time if you're going to go that route to the arena.
Right, because it'll be at the UNO Arena.
Right.
And thank you, Mr. Long, because that would be very cautionary for the
Oh,
public.
You might want to go around.
Right, may
around
want to
the
go,
interstate.
right. So you may look at an alternate route or really give yourself a lot of time to make sure that you're there in time, especially for parking. You know, it's not as convenient in terms of parking and walking into the arena itself. And it's paid parking, I think. It's $5 to park in the UNO arena. And the reason, you know, as Ms. Dysart was saying, the reason that we've had to move it to the arena instead of doing it here locally in St. Bernard Parish is because we have a large graduating class. And if we had it here in the parish in an enclosed facility, an indoor facility, then we would have to severely limit number of tickets. This way, by having it at the arena, we're still able to give an appropriate number of tickets to each graduate. So really, we were petitioned heavily by parents to move the graduation so that more family members could attend and celebrate with their graduates.
Can you please go over the dress code for the visitors?
Yes, and if you're listening out there, this is it's a very nice event. We have put on the tickets, we're asking people to dress appropriately, not to wear shorts, not to wear jeans. It is on the tickets, it is on the information sent out to the parents through the students, and we would ask for everyone's cooperation so that it would be a very joyful event for families and not create any undue tension or conflict.
Anyone else?
We adjourn?
We have a motion by Mr. Campbell, second by Ms. Estevado. All in favor? Aye. This meeting's adjourned. Good night, folks.